welcome Nick Cusumano.
Hello, I'm Nick. This is my 31st year in education. 21 of those, I was a theater and film teacher. And then the past 9 years, or I guess going on 10 now, a director of instructional technology. So I kind of come at this with two brains. I'm much more on the left side of the brain now, but in the first part of my career, I was on the right side of the brain because I was a theater and film teacher. And I think with the adoption of AI all around the world, and Leilani's always on what's changing, what's new, what's the newest trends. And I think as teachers and educators, the important thing is that time we have with our students when we're face to face and building those aha moments. And I think what AI can allow us to do is to offload some of those more mundane tasks. It can also help us as teachers help students right where they're at. We've adopted in our district iReady, and we have much more data about kids than we've ever had before, because I can just tell you that process of, if you don't have that data and it's real time, you're working with data that's 3 months ago. And I think AI is going to afford us that, where are the kids at and how can I help them? And also, they may be able to give us some strategies to help them, or help suggest strategies. But I think what we are as teachers is experts at how humans learn. And finding those moments and to make those things experiential is definitely something that we need to focus on and help students through. I like to think my job as an educator, and I think this is something we all face. I think there's focus on being content experts. I think that is so much less of a focus now. I think we need to help students be creative problem solvers. In teaching those strategies, I think, as we've touched on during our discussions today, this talking about that, how do we evaluate something? Okay, so AI is going to give us something, but is that correct? Is it truthful? You have to teach students about how to evaluate what they have, and I think that is such it's a big challenge that we have as educators. But I think these are the skills that we have to help our students through. Is this is this information correct? What are ways to evaluate this? How do we have discourse? I think that with our feral kids is just having that time to, how do we discuss in a kind manner, but we can have opposing viewpoints. I also think, how can we help students be creative? I think is hitting those human points of what are ways that we can help students take ownership of their learning. I like to think one of my focuses is, as an educator, is help students be the storytellers of their learning. One that I think that's a real, and that as being a lifelong storyteller, I think that's really one. It gives students ownership, because they need to show in whatever way works for them, but this is what I know, and this is what I understand, and this is how I can help others understand what I'm learning, or also help others learn. So it's hitting those different points and ways of doing that. And I think we have a question.
Yeah, I like the road you went down. But here's what I want to ask you, because you have, what would you say, 30 years in this business,
Yeah.
and so you've lived it from before
Mm-hmm.
the prehistoric age,
Yes.
prior COVID. Um, Everything's changed now. AI is changing it, actually almost algorithmically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you look at the difference? How does it feel in terms of the difference in terms of an institution from before, well before, 20, 30 years?
I think that institutionally, or the institutions that we're a part of, change is hard, and I would say prior to this point, change is slow, or was slow. And I don't know if it can be as slow as it was, and I don't want it to be as slow as it was.
But does it look different? I mean, you're talking about trying to get kids to think more creatively and, take charge of their environments and, have agentry and all that other stuff, right? We didn't used to do that. 20, 30 years ago, I think education was more authoritarian. It was
Mhm.
like, and you were the source of the knowledge, right? So how does this really feel like when you sort of look at the past versus now?
I think it's much more guide on the side than sage on the stage. Um, and just finding those opportunities and those moments and those projects and where students are driving their learning, and that we as teachers help them discover those different skills, how to break things down, how to put them back together, how to tell a story, what are the parts of a story, um, finding those things on the side, which I think as teachers, and especially teachers, let's say, started 30 years ago, it was very much, you were it, and you were imparting that knowledge. But I think it's much more providing those opportunities. I think probably prior to 2020, or one of the things you were touching on at a Learning Council event was the experiential learning, as because I don't think we're going to go to where everyone's just going to learn at home. We found out that wasn't. We need that human interaction, but don't waste that human interaction time working on times tables or doing, when was the War of 1812? Well, 1812. Okay, we know that. We can look up we can look up these things. But what, you pose some problems to students. I like UN's, I think it's 26 problems that humanity needs to solve, or ways of working through it, is posing these real life problems for our students and then having them tackle those, and some approaches and some way, to help students. Okay, so we have this problem. How do we define that problem? Okay, so yes, we can have AI help us define that problem, give us all the facts and figures, but how are we going to solve that problem? Because AI is only going to give us back what we feed into it. So it's going to give us the solutions, but how do we decide to handle those solutions?
Exactly. Well, I feel like just looking back for myself, how it felt, the difference between what you just said in terms of the challenge, the mental address by the adults to go, how are we going to do this, right? Is a very different thing than 20, 30 years ago, where it felt very regimented. It felt like you knew what you were to expect every day, and everyone was the same. The factory bell rang and everyone went to the next class. There wasn't maker spaces. There was a computer room down the hall that you barely got to use, and everybody was clueless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the expectation was that you would, as a student, give all authority to the teacher. And everyone did that pretty much. But now there's a questioning attitude by the entire American public. There's a consideration that the teacher doesn't know more than the machine, even by the teachers themselves, and especially the students and parents. This is a majestic change.
Mm.
How does that feel to you in terms of actually supporting all that?
I like that challenge. I think it I think it opens up lots of opportunities that we've never had before. I think it empowers students. I also think it is very scary because it's helping provide those guide rails. I think that's what teachers can help students do is one, we provide them a safe space to fail and to learn from that failure. I mean, I will tell you, okay, I'm going to give you an example with my son. So he is in the second year of college, and he's done very well going through high school and all that. I'm like, the wall's coming. You're going to hit the wall. You're going to hit the wall. Well, we've hit the wall. Calc 2 is the wall. And he came home and visited this weekend, and we had some very heated conversations trying to make him work because he, of course, is Gen Alpha and he always has that phone on him and just always playing in the background. And it's just, and that is definitely something I have to take a breather about. And my wife and I's advice to him is be human. Go talk to your professor. Ask for help. Oh, I can do that. You need to go do that. Because if he doesn't know who you are, you're not going to, he's not going to know how to help you. Yes, it may be a weeding class, but you have the capability. It's just you've not had this challenge before. And I think if we can provide those opportunities for students to hit those challenges and provide them some of those obstacles here and there so that they know how, okay, here's this obstacle. Now, how do I get around that? Or how do I overcome that obstacle? And I think that's definitely a challenge. I'm crossing my fingers that he meets that challenge. And as a parent, I can't do it for him. I can provide some suggestions, and I will provide some more suggestions and a couple more. I'll send him some text because I know he'll read that, and just remind him of those things. And hopefully, I will have a good come December, or he has had one, and hopefully he'll learn from this obstacle. But I mean, we're hitting those challenges all the time, and our students are too. And how do we help them through that process?
What was the conversation that you had with your son around like the guardrails and how to use the AI to support him, and as well as being human?
He's definitely one that has used AI to help him through that process. And suggesting, have it give you some suggestions, have it give you some outlining. Don't have it do it for you because that's not going to help you in the long run. Okay, so AI has said this, and that might work for that project, but eventually you're going to be out there in the world, and someone's going to say, you need to lead this project. And there's going to be the point where, okay, you can go AI, it's going to give you those things, but how do you deal with the human interaction part of that? Okay, so you're working with a group, and Johnny over here is not listening. And you got to get Johnny to listen, to buy in, to join the group, to input. And how do you learn that? Those skills.
Do you see
Wait.
when we think about our communities as well as our civilization, the American civilization, do you see the next issue with equity being access to parenthood?
Yes, yes. That was hysterical.
I'll let ChatGPT answer
ChatGPT just spoke up in the middle of the meeting. Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to use? Yeah. That was hysterical. Okay, Nick, over to you.
Oh, goodness gracious. um, that is a big question that I don't know if I can answer totally. I will answer it as a singular parent. I think providing that is, I mean, we, as much as we would like it to be an equal world, it is not. I wish it was, but I think if we can provide those opportunities, I mean, don't we wish we could have a parenting class for everyone who thinks about being a parent?
Yeah, there should almost be licenses. I'm sorry, you can't have any. Right. Like, no. But I want to go past that. I want to, and then have everybody sort of like feel free to have me pass the mic around. So, Nick doesn't feel totally on the spot. But I feel like one of the things we should say is that we all lived in a world where the adults, the older adults, grandma, grandpa, parents, were supposed to be sources of wisdom, at least quippy remarks, right? And now we've lived through 20, almost 30 years of the ground beneath our feet always trembling and moving. And we are literally now in an age of AI where students can ask almost an infinite wisdom machine for answers. And it's shifted who they look to for the answers. Okay. And the adults don't even feel they have the wisdom to tell you how you should be and do, because they're looking at a future that they can't navigate themselves. So they don't know what to tell you. And I think that's what's really in our hearts right now. And the way that we feel on shaky ground. Am I right? I almost feel like I'm preaching at you people. Okay, so let's comment. Like, Nick, do you want to make the first comment? Then I'll kind of pass the mic around, because that's the point of wisdom needs to be clawed back. And I think it's a really important point about why we're here today as Learning Council. We want to balance AI. We know we want you to use AI. We're bringing you the latest in tools and how to do it. But what we really want to do is bring power back to the humans and elevate human intelligence. This is a star high goal. This is not small. You go.
I think it is finding the humanness in those processes, and to help inspire our students, to help give them support and ownership, and how to teach them how to connect.
Yeah.
And I think, and that is a scary thing right now.
Yes, it's very scary. It's very scary if you feel like you don't even, as an adult or grandparent, you don't have the wisdom to tell these kids what to do, because you're not really sure where it's all going to go, right? Okay, so let's pass this around. Say your name first so the camera catches that.
My name is Meredith Bates, and I kind of just had this thought that when we think about the generational wisdom and parenting, we're already at this place where there's inequity in parenting. And I just lost my thought.
It's hard. It's a hard moment, right?
I think when the story we're all used to hearing is, well, back in my day, I had to walk to school through the snow uphill both ways. And that's not an experience that, my generation or kids these days is going to value, because it's not something they're going to necessarily live through. But if we look at it and change the perspective of, I valued my education, that's my lived experience and the wisdom that I can offer. So I valued my education. So no matter what, I made sure I showed up at school because I knew that was going to take me somewhere. We have to think of our wisdom as that overarching concept of what I valued. So how does that translate to the experiences these upcoming generations are going to live through? So it all comes back to that education piece. When you know better, hopefully you choose to do better. And as we learn what our kids need fundamentally, that Maslow's hierarchy, how can we fulfill those so that when they get to school, they're truly able to absorb the wisdom that the lived experiences of their teachers, their educators, their facilitators have, so that they can critically look at the tools that are available to them and use them to the fullest extent, and not just checking a box or answering a question or completing a test.
Exactly. All right, so let's, Jeremy, yeah, and we will be able to go 1 minute still. We'll make this fast.
My name is Sam, and to Meredith's point, I think I like the analogy that you used about, like, well, back in my day, but the students that we have now grew up, were born maybe post 9/11. So security is different at an airport. That's all they know. They grew up on an iPad. They grew up watching videos. They grew up watching TV. But like, I think of my parents, they grew up, they read books, and their news came from a newspaper. They didn't watch, a bunch of news clips and things like that. And so I just think, yeah, with changing times comes, like you said, the ground under our feet is constantly moving. And how could we not adjust to teach our children in a different way and, meet them where they are? With change comes great responsibility, as we're responsible to help them where they are. So I kind of like running with loose gravel under my feet. That's exciting. I'm like, all right, what's next? Here we go.
John, final comment?
Well, I look at
Say your name.
Don Jeffries, and back in our day when we were in school, if the student asked why, it was defiance and not curiosity. and you yeah and you look at, like what Samantha just said. Our parents would watch the news because of what happened. You don't see a whole lot of what now in news broadcasts, sports broadcasts. It's why something happened or what next will happen.
It's evaluative.
Yes.
It tells you what to think.
I mean, if you look at ESPN and you look at their 24 hours, I mean, there's more analysis type of programming as opposed to what happened programming.
Yeah. Very good point, Don. Very good point. Well, this has been super fun, right? Nick, as our raconteur, right? Has been completely awesome, and what you said was awesome. I think we all learned from this. Thank you very much. Let's give Nick a round of applause.